So the other side of it, dum, is you also able to claim your vessels. So everybody with the undeed land was able to claim a vessel. We know that there's 100,000 lands, and so far we've got 31,000 vessels that have been claimed. We know that these are going to be instrumental into the gaming side, and I think what's interesting about all of this is that we're starting to get a glimpse into how the other side is going to play out. There's going to be all of these different collections. The first one that we're seeing at the moment is vessels of in-game sort of assets that allow you to do different things within this whole land of Mara that they're talking about. So the floor one is sitting at 0.33 at the moment. If we just sort it according to traits, so the ones you're seeing are the hunters. If we click on farmer, and if you missed it, we did talk about these in detail last week, and there's a standalone video there as well. Just search for Yuga vessels on my YouTube. You'll be able to see it. Farmer sitting at 0.4, and the enchanter sitting at 0.65 as far as the floor price goes. So yeah, man, very interesting to see.
Yeah, dude, I don't have too much to say about these assets. I'm just I'm just kind of watching them, just kind of staying up with how they're doing, just because there's so many in their ecosystem now. So I'm just kind of interested to see what the sentiment changes, if it changes at all. Once I mean, they inevitably will have to go down in price at some point. So I'm
So
just
it's already corrected a little bit. So it's corrected almost zero point 0.3, so the amount of the vessel. So it was sitting at about 1.8 something. It's now 1.6. So it has slightly corrected. What I'm thinking is what we're going to start to see is as time rolls out, if you look at any land and you find one that's got some sentiment on it, like this thing over here, that is going to be able to be stripped from the land in future. So all the resources and everything that you see is it's going to become its own separate asset that, like we've seen with the coders and the vessels, that
Mhm.
has its own value in the game when it finally does roll out.
Yeah, just because the board ape ecosystem is so used to everything being worth a lot, I'm just very interested to see, because it looks like the way they're going, they're not particularly worried about the floor, like the team isn't, the actual brand isn't. The holders probably are. So like if and when these split up into all these things, and we're at a point where NFTs are just you being able to own the assets versus the game owning the assets, will that affect people's opinion, especially the holders' opinions on the brand? Will they start to say, "Damn"? Like at that point, it's kind of, I guess, like that's the gamble. Bored Apes and Yuga is betting that their brand is big enough and strong enough at that point, and have delivered value enough over the last 2 years that people will kind of forgive them, if in a sense, if that's not the right word, but like be okay with the fact that maybe the prices aren't as high at some point in the future because it's always been tied to the high value.
For sure. I think there is definitely going to be that culture shift where people are realizing that this is the gaming side of Yuga and that that's going to have different rules and than you see in the PFP side. So you've got your on the left hand side the board apes, the mutants, the kennels, and then on the right you've got your other side and you've got your coders, your vessels, and all the in-game assets that are going to come afterwards. And you've got to really separate those in your mind, I think, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
You know what I found really interesting when you looked at the second trip that we covered last week, that other side had, where they did a teaser video after, and at the end of the video they zoomed out, and all of those 7,000 people were playing in one land.
Mm-hmm.
So that and that land seemed huge. So that
Yeah.
was definitely a hint at what's to come, and just the scale of what they are building, which is really interesting.
Damn, that is very interesting. I didn't even really consider like the size of the metaverse in like terms of physical size, because I just figured, oh, the metaverse just goes on forever. The land will just be infinitely big, but that's not the case. You have to buy certain plots, and certain plots are bigger than others. That's very interesting, actually. It makes me think of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist Kingdom season 1. If you guys are Yu-Gi-Oh fans, there's a season 1 in Duelist Kingdom where they have to battle and duel on certain parts of the island, and certain parts of the island have different attributes and traits that you can use to advantage or to like fuck with the other person. Like if you have a bunch of sea monsters and stuff, you'd want to fight closer to the ocean because the ocean has different advantages and things like that. And just makes me excited for that, because that's a reality that we will be able to play on. and play with very soon. I think
For
not very
sure.
soon,
I
but
mean, I remember, back in the day when NFT Worlds was still on Minecraft and doing so well,
mm,
how their big thing was that each land was massive. That if you were an avatar in the land, which you could be, it would take you something like a week to walk from one side of one of the lands, one of your lands, a single land, to the other side of that land. Whereas the sandbox, we all know, like if you've done anything in the sandbox, those plots are pretty small.
yeah, they're
Um,
tiny.
so I think like one NFT world was like almost equivalent to the size of the whole of Sandbox, and that definitely has a huge significance. So it's looking like Yuga and the other side is going to be similar to NFT worlds as far as the size of each plot is going to be massive, and that's really cool because it means you can build a lot more on your land, and you also, if you've got a particular resource, you've got a lot more of that resource than you thought because your land is bigger than you might have thought to begin with. So
Mm.
definitely interesting to watch. I'm enjoying seeing them play it out. They really have come with one thing after another. In the last month or two, they really have picked up their game. I think it can be a bit overwhelming on the one side, just the amount of stuff that's happening and coming out. And if you're not really a Yuga Maxi, I think it's quite difficult to stay on top of everything that's coming out over here. Um, but on the other side, they're definitely keeping people engaged. There's things coming out all the time. We've got stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had